Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This episode was probably one of my favorites to record. Today we have our Loremaster Sam on the podcast. And let me tell you, the man has led a fascinating life. On the docket, we have Sam's frankly fantastic background before he got to Ember Sword, and then we move on to, how he got to Ember Sword, what his vision for Ember Sword is, and then, as per usual, we get into his gaming history, what his favorite games are, and things of that nature. I truly believe this might be one of our finest episodes, so please enjoy. Well, welcome to this wondrous space of sharing. This makes it sound like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Would you please state your name and what you do for Ember Sword?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sam Horton. Long form is Samuel Horton. I'm the director of story and franchise development for Bright Star Studios, which essentially amounts to me being the lead writer, the lore master,
Yes.
Yeah, the designer of the world.
Awesome. So let's start. Let's wind the clock back a bit. Give us your background. How did you get into gaming, into writing?
How did I get into gaming? It's kind of like, how did I get toilet trained? Well, I've always played games for as long as I can remember. Some of my earliest memories include playing Myst with my dad. That's an old-time classic. That was the most popular PC game until The Sims back in the early 90s. It just kind of, there's always a video game playing for me at our house, and it just kind of snowballed, and then from there I got big into making levels for different games. I would really enjoy the ones that came with level editors, such as Load Runner, StarCraft, Warcraft 3, etc. And with the competitive gaming front, a lot of people from Bright Star come from competitive backgrounds. I was a big fan of the guild Nihilum, which was a World of Warcraft guild back in the 2000s, going into the 2010s, and I saw that there was a writer position available at some point after I saw, after I had enjoyed them for a couple years, and it was posted by this fellow called Mark. I don't know if he went anywhere in life, but
Whatever happened to Mark?
So yeah, I put in an application, and it just kind of snowballed into that afterwards. I was big into writing for Nihilum. I went to BlizzCon, met a bunch of the developers, wrote news articles, and then after Nihilum was shuttered, I got to other esports organizations such as SK Gaming, Nirvana, Meet Your Makers, Evil Geniuses, and Red Bull. And
Wow.
Yeah, ever since then, it's just always like one foot into just this crazy world, and the other foot, I have 2 feet, in case anyone was wondering. The other foot was directly squared into game development, because that love for world building, like designing levels and all that, I just decided to take it and run, go to university and get a degree there. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got into everything. Like a lifelong passion, just like both for design and for writing. And at the University of Idaho, I was taking the classwork, but the program there was in its infancy, the Virtual Technology and Design program, and I knew that the only way I could be competitive with people from DigiPen and whatnot, art institutes, especially geared for video games, was to really learn on my own, and kind of get mentors outside of the classroom, and also take professional opportunities where I could. And here I am about a decade later, and I'm stuck with you guys.
Sort of circling the drain.
Sure.
Gallows humor. Sorry. I'm curious. Before we move on to actual Ember Sword related questioning, did you ever dabble in tabletop role playing games?
curiously, my tabletop experience has largely come after I got into the heavy video game development. It was during my senior and super senior years at the University of Idaho that I got into Pathfinder, which is essentially a parallel to Dungeons and Dragons. It's called the discount version of it.
It's D&D 3.5 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and so tabletop gaming, it kind of came with that, and my wife, over the last few years, I kind of met this hot chick, and I, married her, and like we just really enjoy board games at our house, and it kind of came later in life, ironically.
Yeah, because I'm just curious, because most of the people I've talked to on the more game design side of things, they seem to have like dabbled in some form of D&D and tabletop, so I was curious whether that extended to the actual narrative designer, and it's interesting to know that, you sort of did it backwards in a sense.
Yeah, and that's not to say that there haven't been forays into board games and tabletop, because when things were still heating up with Ember Sword before we were funded, I actually made a decent amount of money by designing and writing a number of Monopoly-style board games. Ugh,
Oh.
Yikes! For this company called Late for the Sky, and I think I came up with about 36 of those, and about
Oh my
12 have
God.
been 12 have been published to date, and then back in 2013, during one of my final years at college, I very accidentally, created a board game called Star Thieves, which turned out to be insanely fun, and I have plans for that, just that's kind of in the background, guys gotta eat, so I'm not gonna...
Guys gotta eat. Look at you. You're a pro at this, already teasing things that should, they usually come at the end of the podcast. That's smooth. So, moving on, regrettably, although we can cover this, I'm very interested in all of this. I'm one of my very best friends is a creative writing major, and just hearing him talk, I could do it for hours. But in the interest of time, let's move on to Ember Sword. So, how did you come to work on Ember Sword?
Well, I was, a lot of my career, a lot of my roots are in Hollywood, because
Oh, really?
I spent a few years taking care of my brother. He was poisoned, unfortunately, and with a deathly cocktail. I don't know how he's still alive, but I was medicating him for 3 years, and it just was not a proper time to have a proper sit-down job or even a video game development job. So in lieu of that, I focused more on Hollywood, developing my career there, because I had made a few short films that had done well at film festivals. So I focused on that, wrote some awesome screenplays, if I may say so, and was got represented by a literary agent at Dramatic Artists Agency down in Hollywood, and they've been great for me. But this is leading somewhere, by the way.
I'm fascinated. Please keep going.
I tried to get a horror film off the ground, but I kind of rolled snake eyes, because I found a couple of unscrupulous producers. I found out about it a little too late, and it just I was winded, I was knocked down, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna let the dust settle there, because there was a lot of dust that was kicked up by those schmucks. And then I decided to focus back on video games after a 3-year hiatus, and I looked up what my old pal Mark was doing. We hadn't spoken for about a decade, since the Hillam, and I saw, lo and behold, he had a game development studio, and I saw, that looked really cool. It was an MMO-based thing, and so I just wrote to him and said hi, and like Forrest Gump and Jenny, just with less romance, we were like peas and carrots, and so I was brought on within a few days as the person who would develop the lore, be the chief writer, and here we are.
Dude, that's awesome. And you're even making movie references. This is rapidly becoming a special episode for me.
Sure is special.
I did not mean that. I'm gonna cancel. No.
Cancel the podcast.
So, in your capacity as our lead writer, what is your vision of Ember Sword?
Oh,
I know that's a heavy question, but just, roll with it, I guess.
yeah. I want people to... I want a lot of servers. I want every server to look different, because this is largely a sandbox game, so I want people to just basically have their big communities spread out around these 4 regions: Solarwood, Duscaron, Ediso, Severand. That's the chief thing, because that's the player base. And at the same time, I want everyone to just feel all welcome to be able to delve into our high-end content, our raids, our dungeons, and our arenas. I just want everyone to be engaged with what we develop, and most of all, I don't want anyone to feel like they're coming in with the expectation that they have to get into the lore, or that it's going to be not top heavy with lore. I want everyone to basically do what they want with Ember Sword. I don't want there to be any expectations, but if they want something, I want to be more than ready to provide for them. And, that's my vision.
So following up on that, in saying that you want people to essentially discover the history and the story of Ember Sword at their own pace, what is your writing and design process like to accommodate for that?
Well, first of all, there were few parameters when I came aboard. The person who came up with Ember Sword, Sage, he had just a few prerequisites, and then he said, other than that, go at it. And my process has been to have a story that is very different, that it's its own thing, and it's and not specifically stuck in one genre. But I want the story to also be something that, is pieced together. It's heavily a mystery. That's the thing, is that Ember Sword is a mystery. The story is. So I basically, my process is to take that mystery to the back of my mind and basically take the story and break it up. Everything was written initially as 40 to 50 page outline of the story, as if it were a single player RPG, that where you were to circle the moon of Thanibus. And I took that, and every step of the way I break it down, and if it looks like it's broken down enough, I break it down harder. And yeah, because I want it to be approached from most any angle. I'm not going to use the skin of the cat reference because that's dark and I love cats, but I want there to be, I basically want it to be all open doors, but, of course, you're going to eventually get to the same conclusion with each region if you follow the story. And so, yeah, that's my process, is basically I take something that I would want ideally for myself, and then I break it down because, of course, I don't want everyone to have the same experience that I have. And I think that I'm doing pretty well with that. And the basis of that is that there's pretty much an equal distribution of what people want from the game, where they want to play and what they want to find out. And I just love it because I have people who are already arguing about hey, I'm pro Severand, I'm pro Ediso, and I'm like, I've barely told you anything. I barely know what they. No, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but that's why I love reading in the comments is people saying, just having wildly different ideas, but then, because, yeah, that means that everything is getting the proper amount of attention.
This is incredibly reassuring to hear from the actual creator of the narrative, because I'm going to make a Destiny 2 reference like I do every podcast, but what I really like about Destiny's approach to narrative is that it's Best way I can almost visualize it is a series of threads. You just wander around, you find a thread, and you start pulling it, and that thread leads into like a bigger narrative, right? They all lead to the same place, and I really like that. That's the vibe I'm getting from Ember Sword. You can pick up a lore thread, and then you start reading up on that particular story, and that sort of ties into the larger world, and then you learn about the larger world, and so on, sort of a snowball effect.
Yeah, and I greatly respect Destiny. You know, I have some very fond memories from 6 years back of playing the original. The game, the story is like, it's not the best, but you know, there's still a lot that people can enjoy from the game. You know, so I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, the story that is actually presented to you is kind of garbage. The lore tabs and the things that you actually sit down and read are masterfully written, and they're hidden way the heck in the game files.
Yeah.
So it's only for the true erudites, I guess. You did touch upon endgame content and raids, and we recently revealed the Ultradeep. What was your process there like? What was like thinking of the Ultradeep like? What was designing it like?
Oh, okay. As a bit of a preface, this is kind of funny. The Ultradeep was actually shelved for nearly 2 years. You know, we were actually thinking, okay, this is a big place. We'll never get around to this until after the game's release. So we'll kind of just dodge around. But yeah, the Ultradeep was conceptualized as science gone mad. You know, it's a lab that has fallen out of Burkhalter Academy's control, and now it's a highly dangerous place that, you know, just almost every bad thing, you know, if you, like, it's like Friday the 13th, Black Cats, just Broken Mirror, all in one place, you know, just things have gone bad there. And I conceptualized it with the main story in mind, where it will loop in, and you know, it just as we've revisited it, as it's turned out that the investors actually really like the idea of the Ultradeep. You know, it's cool, and so I've revisited it, and it's kind of developed its own narrative in itself. You know, where there's a story that's self-contained, and it's like, yeah, that story is not intrinsically linked up with the main plot that takes you there, but you know, it just is its own it's its own thing, and it just, I suppose that the appeal is that it's so different from the rest of Burkhalter's and Solarwood in general, because you have this nice serene forest where, you know, it's like, okay, are there going to be like dancing bunnies and raccoons in the forest? It's like, no, down below there's actually this hellish place where, like, you know, these ghoulish urkadors and, you know, these monstrosities that are burning crimson like skin and ash and rock, like, they are just ready to chew on your bones, and it's just such a nice contrast to the rest of that area. And I think that is, like, the big appeal is that with everything, you know, with so much focus on Solarwood, we have something that goes very counter to Solarwood while still being part of it. Yeah, definitely. So with designing the Ultradeep, I think that the primary thing to remember is that people, you know, who go there, they're likely going to like raids. They're probably going to want to visit it again and again. And so it's about making it, you know, where you can enter there and feel like, okay, I think I can take it on, but you also know you're going to have to work for it. And so, you know, the different creatures that are down there, they have abilities that require strategy, and they're going to keep you on your toes. You can't just, you know, like, dodge to the left and then strike, dodge to the left and strike. They're going to have abilities that are going to trip you up, and you have to, you know, be able to catch them when they're about to, like target your healer, because they're like, hey, your healer is helping you. Maybe I should take that from you. You know, things like that. And also, I consider, you know, positioning, like strategic positioning of where mobs will patrol and whatnot. So you have to time things out correctly, or else you're going to get one too many Hellgruffs on your tail, and then it's like, okay, that's a raid wipe. I see this coming already, and yet there are also doodads in the environment that will aid you, or they will aid the enemy, because if you're not careful with them, lava burns, and it is not selective.
Yeah, glad some things are at least physically consistent with our
Yeah.
world. I really, really appreciate, again, I've been saying this a lot, but I really appreciate this approach to design, because it reminds me of one of my favorite Shadowrun settings. Shadowrun being the cyberpunk tabletop role-playing game featuring magic, which is probably one of my favorite settings for any type of role-playing game ever. I'm really into the mystery of the monolith. Sort of, you see this ginormous building off in the horizon, and you're not certain what's in it and how big it is and what threats lurk inside. And the Ultradeep is sort of like that, but upside down. Sort of this bottomless hellish pit holding untold secrets and even scarier horrors. Which, brief tangent, there is a Shadowrun module that is very reminiscent of this, called the Renraku Arcology, I believe it was called, which, the gist of it is there's a ginormous Mayan tech pyramid in the middle of Seattle in the 2050s, and it's run by an AI, and it's also a ginormous shopping center / housing project with secret laboratories at the subterranean level. And one day the AI just I think on Christmas Eve, it shuts down. It locks the doors, and 200,000 people are locked in there for 2 years. And the adventure starts with the doors open and horror spew out. And that's your starting off point as a dungeon master. And that is terrifying to me, yet also fantastic. So getting the same vibes from the Ultradeep is immensely awesome in my book.
Oh, thank you. That does sound awesome. I haven't played it, but it sounds right up my alley. What that scenario just described, it kind of runs counter to The Dark Knight Rises, where, hey, 60,000 cops, they just got trapped underground, and hey, they just came out and they're ready to punch the Bane and his henchmen, into submission. Cool. And they're all perfectly shaved. But the cool thing about the Ultradeep is the stuff that people have been teased about, that is actually just one of, I believe, 4 stages of the Ultradeep. There are multiple stages that will have different themes, so it's still going to be underground laboratory. You won't go above, but it's kind of like you're going to delve deep into this Orwellian horror, and each one is going to have its own theme. Like one of them, for instance, you're going to face off against people who are down there. Not every monster, has fangs and claws. Sometimes, there'll be the Scooby-Doo villain after they take off the mask. So, because people can be dicks. I'll just say that. Yeah. So, there's plenty more to be seen from the Ultradeep, and, I really hope that people enjoy, the build-up and, just also the sense of the questing down there, because that's an important part of it, as well as that if you're a lore fanatic, you're gonna find some quests down there. You're gonna have quests that will lead down there, and there will be at least one that will start down there, which that was kind of a fun little idea that we came up with, which was that not everything is going to be revealed above grounds. And that's a big difference, between us and, say, World of Warcraft, where quests are often not introduced in the actual dungeon, because, why would they be? And we're here to answer that with the answer of because it's different. It's interesting,
Oh, that is what I like to hear. Absolutely. So, we can save a whole bunch more of this conversation for a future podcast, which I would be very, very excited to do. Just delve deep into different aspects of the lore at your discretion, of course.
Yeah.
Now, we are getting to what I dub my favorite part of these Meet the Team podcasts, where we dive into your gaming history a bit, the freeballing section, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what are your top 5 favorite games?
Oh, okay. Well, I like first of all, this is one that not like people I think have seen, but they don't know the name of. It's called Genome, and it's by 7th Level, and that was like, I don't know. You know how it feels when you put on the Oculus Rift for the first time? You know,
Yes.
where it's like, okay, I just jumped to another dimension. That's how
Yeah.
it felt when, in 1997, when I played Genome for the first time. I was like, oh, it's 3D. Like, I have big quotation marks around 3D. But, you know, I fell in love with the game, like, to a great extent. It was like, I lusted after a video game for the first time. It was gorgeous. I could not get enough of it, and you know, I actually got to know the people who created it as an adult. You know,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
and you know, we still talk to this day. You know, because it's like I owe you my childhood, and and that's actually a running theme with my favorite video games, but I'll get more to that, you know, in just a second. And I should probably move on, or I could talk about Genome all day.
Oh, please.
Uh, Another one is Dota 2, and thing with that is I got to know the lead designer Ice Frog during my senior year of high school, and we talked about design philosophy and whatnot, and it was a Warcraft 3 map back then, and you know, within, I don't know, 9 months at that point, Valve had hired him to create a sequel, to create Dota 2, and there was something about it that just, like, I just love it. I got to see a Cinderella story before my own eyes. You don't get to see that every day. I mean, Valve hasn't done that since then. I mean, but it was gorgeous, just seeing this beautiful Warcraft 3 map that was maintained by one person. You know, is as good as, you know, any big team, you know, any big studio. This guy was just handling it on his own, and I could just see it, you know, become something else. And, you know, I still talk to him to this day, and, you know, I'm happy and proud to know him, and, you know, he's still one of my favorite designers, and Dota 2 is a gorgeous game. It's merciless, and, you know, it's like, yeah, you might need, like, get an alcohol addiction from the stress, but yeah, I think a good descriptor of playing Dota 2 is you're trying to perform brain surgery on someone while blindfolded while riding a horse.
And Russians are screaming at you on top of that.
I had not thought of that, but yes.
You are the exception, I swear to God.
And yeah, okay. I gotta keep this going, of course. StarCraft 1 is another one of my top fives. I was really wanting to love StarCraft 2, but, you know, it just did not hit me quite the same way, but it's still a beautiful game, and I'm happy for the people who love it. But StarCraft 1, I mean, good God, I just loved it from the get-go, and I didn't care if I lost or whatnot. I just kept on playing, and, you know, the map editor, oh yeah, you had the map editor, so there's that bonus, but, you know, just perfectly balanced, just impeccable, and, you know, beautifully designed. I was, you know, just one of my all-time favorites is StarCraft, you know, enough said. And, yeah, and then, Warcraft 3, especially the Frozen Throne. Oh God, God, that is you know, amazing game. Just another one that's beautifully balanced, you know. And yeah, I'm just yeah, that one just like that's where I kind of realized I could take modding to a new level, and of course the game itself, that's another thing. Just well written and everything. It is probably the last time that Blizzard had a story in a game, for people who like lore. It's the last time that they had a story that did not get contrived, that did not become convoluted and, start yo-yoing.
Yeah, somebody who is good friends with a lot of WoW fanatics, I completely feel your pain. It hasn't been good as far as I know.
Yeah, that was merely a setback, says every character. I mean, now they have an expansion pack that is entirely a setback. Every character who's dead is now a ghost, and you get to play with them, and it's like, oh, guys, you've really taken it somewhere, and
Nothing is sacred.
Yeah. What was that fifth game? There's a fifth game, of course, that I want to mention. Halo 2.
Halo 2, hell yes.
Yes. The story is garbage, but
damn, not pulling any punches.
Yeah, but oh god, that multiplayer experience, I just have to say multiplayer experience, and I think that everyone, I say that and LAN party, and I think that just a lot of people around their 30s, their minds light up, and they're like, he's one of us. It's everyone knows that experience if you're a gamer who was, adolescent or teenager during the mid-2000s. That was just perfect. And yes, I did play the games on either side of it. Halo 1 has a great story, and the subsequent games, yeah, they have good multiplayer, but Halo 2 is just magical. It was just a new leap for FPS. I just loved that game.
It's incredibly brave of you to say that, because most people would say Halo 3. So that is definitely an interesting it's an interesting opinion. Not besmirching it. This sounds like I'm pooping on your opinion. Absolutely not. I was a PlayStation kid. I still am. Eastern Europe just sort of gravitated that way.
Yeah.
So I know of the legend of Halo through all of the YouTube videos I have in country. So I definitely it's weird that I have nostalgia for a thing I've never actually experienced, but I completely understand that feeling.
Yeah.
So moving right along then, what is your longest gaming session?
Halo 2.
Nice.
Yeah. Consistently, there would be LAN parties every few weeks at a friend's house. Like my friend's dad would host it. That we would stay up, I don't know, until 3 in the morning, and so it was basically 12 to 14 hour, button mashing, and we always wanted more. Yeah, we were toxic, we'd threaten each other and all that and drink Mountain Dew, just bad stereotypes, but we loved it. It was a community experience, I even, would bring over my little TV so I could have a separate TV to play on, so they couldn't look at my screen.
No screen peeking, I completely understand.
I know they were on my team, hey, but still. Yeah, so that is the easy answer, Halo 2.
That is a satisfactory enough answer, believe you me. Man, the lost art of split screen. I appreciate a lot of the people have answered similarly with LAN parties, and I'm glad you're keeping the tradition going. It's almost a lost art at this point, and I'm glad that people have a very fond remembrance of when that was a regular occurrence. I guess speaking of fond gaming memories, what would be your fondest gaming memory?
There are a couple, in 6th grade, the way I got introduced to StarCraft was actually that my 6th grade teacher, every Friday he'd host a StarCraft club after school, and a bunch of us nerds, we'd enjoy playing until 9 p.m. So it was quite the investment, and I just think that collective memory through 6th grade was magical, and there were also on the professional front, there was also a wonderful memory from 2012 where I was invited to the VIP section of Notch's party. He was big into hosting those parties with Mojang, when he was still affiliated with them, and it was just amazing. I know this is not exactly playing a game, but it's still gaming in my mind.
Yeah, of course.
I was sitting next to John Romero and Ellen Ruskin from Valve, and Jens Bøgensen. He was he's the lead designer of Minecraft, and then I just and also Marcus Passion, that's Notch, and we were just talking about everything, and it's I didn't even register it at the time. I knew who they were, of course, but afterwards it's did I really just do that? Was I really just... And, Deadmau5 was, having drinks next to me, and, it's just insane. And it's my entire life of gaming came together at one moment, for one night, and I just felt so privileged. And also, Avicii was the guy who is DJing it, and, God rest his soul, I got to experience that, and that might be the best memory with gaming. No one was playing a game because, put your tablet down. This is a $3 million party. But still, that might be the answer for just gaming it in general.
That sounds surreal.
It was.
Wow. Well, this is a this is a weirdly ethereal note to end on, but those were all the questions I had for this episode of the podcast. But for everybody who made it this far in what is now, I think, the longest and certainly, in my book, most fascinating episode of the Ember Sword podcast, thank you, and we will, honest to God, have more to come, because this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I assume it's near and dear to Sam's as well, given that
absolutely.
He created it. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and share. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a great pleasure. I just love being able to talk about this, and I hope that everyone's appreciated it as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and we will see you guys next time. Hey you made it to the end. Congratulations! That must mean you like us enough to want more, right? Well, good news! We're all over the internet. Go to embersword.com and subscribe to our newsletter for a chance to play the game early, as well as the latest interesting tidbits on the game and the team. Join our lovely Discord community over at discord.gg/embersword. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at PlayEmberSword for regular updates on what we're up to. And remember the basics. Drink water, be kind to each other, and spread the word about Ember Sword.